Hi everyone, welcome back to the grand finale of the 12 Days of Crafting Advent Calendar series. And I wanted to create one more project. Again, it's going to be another card. I do have another project in mind for some of the supplies for a layout, but I didn't want to spend that much time on this last one because I wanted to do a walkthrough of all of the things that I've created over the course of these 12 and now day 13 of this series. My goal was to try and use as many items from the Advent calendar to create this card. Might be a little overwhelming for some, but I think I am going to create something that's going to be fun and kind of whimsical, and using the blues that are part of the paper collections and things. So I'm going to be using the twine. I'm going to be using the labels. I'm going to be using the Memories and More cards. I'm going to be using the ephemera, the stamps, obviously. I'm going to be using the gold glitter shaker bits, and I am going to use a flip flap because we are going to create a shaker card with this. So first things first, I have cut the green leaf paper down to the card size, which is 5.5 by 4.25. I am using the piece that I created with the day 5 stencils. I am going to use this piece that I created and try and use this up because this was something that I didn't use on any of the existing cards. So I thought, okay, this is a perfect example. I'm going to use one of the Memories and More cards and the gold banner. We're going to stamp on that. And I've already fussy cut out a couple of things. I'm going to make this a birthday card. And so I've stamped out in Secret Sea and Second Generation of Misty Moonlight, a cupcake. And then to go with the Azure Afternoon that was part of the stenciling that I did a couple of butterflies. This piece was left over from the card, the other shaker card that we did. So I'm going to use this. And then I did tie a bow out of the twine, the blue twine. So lots of pieces here, but I'm going to move the stamp set out of the way, move this up, and we are going to stamp on the back side of this because we are going to make this a shaker card and we are going to use a 4x4 flip flap. So when I put this in, and if we use it as a flip flap, but just as a shaker card, this is going to be, hopefully the glare is not too bad. This is going to be blank. So I'm going to put the, this blue stripe card, I'm going to put the sentiment piece here, but I felt like the whites could be improved. So I took one of the small flowers from the set, and I am going to go ahead and stamp it. So I'm probably going to do a combination of first generation and second generation, and I'm going to create a pattern here at the top. So I do need a piece of scratch paper. So let me go ahead and grab a piece of that. Oh, get a piece of scratch paper because I'm going to be stamping off the edge. So we're just going to move some stuff out of the way here. And again, I'm going to just eyeball this. So again, just putting this down, I'm about probably not quite half an inch, a little bit more than 1/4 inch, almost a half an inch from the top and the bottom. I'm going to just do some random stamping. And like I said, I'm going to do in a, let's see, we're going to go here and then here. And we're just going to try and create a random pattern. And you can do that by going off the page, but also by going in a triangle. That helps with that placement. Again, just trying to create a bit of a random pattern. Like so. We're going to stamp that off because that was too much. Go there. And you could probably even do 3rd generation if you wanted to. Because this is a dark enough color. Okay, so I think that's good. We're going to flip this over. We're going to do the same thing again. Maybe we'll start with a 2nd generation. There. Again, we're just trying to create some visual interest with it on this piece. Getting a bit too not random. I was going very much in a straight line there. All right, so we'll just lay our piece down, see if we've got pretty much a coverage. Yep, we pretty much have that covered, so I think we are good with that. Okay, so now we can adhere this piece down, and we're just going to use some tape runner. And we want to just eyeball this. We want to have about the same amount at the top and the bottom so that it looks even, like so. Slide that over just a smidge. Okay, now we want to stamp our sentiment on this piece. And so the sentiment that I was going to use was birthday wishes and for someone extra special. So those are the 2 sentiments that I want to use. And so we are going to grab birthday wishes. And this is one that I did cut apart, but we're going to use it all. We're going to use it because this is a big piece. We're going to go ahead and put it back together. And then we're going to do this in Secret C. Just trying to make sure my fingers don't touch everything. Need a larger block. I'm a little crooked here, so we're going to try and straighten that up. Here, let's put this on our mat so we can actually see grid lines. Okay, that looks good. Pick that up. And I'm going to grab Secret C. Again, I'm trying to stay in this blues palette with that pop of green. That's part of this. All right. So let's go ahead and we're going to ink that up. And I had already seasoned all of these stamps, so I don't have to reseason them. Sorry if you're seeing my head. Okay, birthday wishes. And then we actually have one other thing that we're going to stamp, which is going to be what's in the middle, because when you have a flip flap, you want to put something underneath the flip flap as well, even though it's going to be a shaker. So I'm going to use the circle that's from the die cuts on the last day 12, I believe. That was a die cut. Wishes for someone extra special is what we're going to put in the middle of this circle die cut that came as part of day 12. All right. So our stamping is done. Now we have a little bit of assembly to do. Just clean up that stamp a little bit, put that all back so we don't have too much of a mess. Okay. All right. So we're going to put all that away. So now that we have finished this piece, we need to add this sentiment to the back. I'm going to leave this flat. I'm not going to do it up on any foam tape or anything. And we're just going to try to center that as best we can. And I'm going to flip this over. Oh, do I have that upside down? Hold on, we got to double check. No, I did that right. So remember, when you have a flip flap, this is going to be the front, and then it's going to flip over. So you need to make sure that your sentiment is going the right way. So I actually did that correctly without paying that close attention, thankfully. Okay, I'm going to add this butterfly that was part of the stamp set. And I am popping this up on 3D foam tape. And I'm going to just add that as just a dimensional element that we can put on that. Okay, we're going to set that aside. Okay, so now we have, I'm going to move this out of the way. Now we have our 4x4 piece of paper that we have the stencil on. We have our birthday wishes. So we are going to put this in our flip flap, and we want to make sure that the adhesive of the flip flap, sorry, got to get my fingers to get in there so that I can make sure that I don't get anything stuck. Okay, so the adhesive on this flip flap, all right, what am I doing here? Everything's getting hung up. As soon as you add a dimensional thing, I seem to have run into a problem. There we go. Okay, now we've got it in there. So now that we've got this 4x4 flip flap, you want to make sure that this adhesive piece here, right? This is the piece that's going to fold under and be hidden underneath this this piece of paper. So we don't want to stick this down yet because we need to be able to slide this underneath. But I wanted to make this a shaker card. And so one of the reasons I did the dimensions is to give a little bit of space in here for the shaker pieces. I probably could have put another butterfly here, but I chose not to. So I just did that one. So we are going to open this up, and we are going to add a few of, not too many. This is a shaker card that doesn't get a lot of shaker pieces. So we're going to the front, add a few of these pieces in, like so. I think that will be good. I think we'll do a couple more, just a few more. Okay, closing the bag up so I don't spill. All right, so that's good. So when I put this down, the adhesive's on the back side, so I actually need to seal this up so that those shaker pieces do not come out, right? I don't want them to come out. So I'm going to just take some tear and tape, and I'm going to go from edge to edge here on the outside. I'm going to tear that so that I can work with it. And then I'm going to essentially seal up this piece. So that will, I think I got that. There we go. There we go. I got it in the place I want it. It's a little bit long, so we're going to have to tear that off. Okay. So we're going to just tear a little bit of this off. One nice thing about tear and tape is it's right in the name, tear. Okay, so we're going to push that down on the side. So I've got the tear and tape there, and then we're going to peel off the backing and then push it down to the other side of the flip flap, like so. Okay, and we are going to end up folding this over, like so. And that's going to then seal up that shaker card. Okay, so hopefully that made sense. So you put everything in, and then you use tear and tape to seal up that, and then the flip flap will still work because the flip flap piece is not being used. That's going to go down on here to create this. So that's our next step. So let's go ahead and pull the card down. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to add my adhesive. Again, I'm not doing anything that is popped up on this piece either. But I do want to make sure that my flip flap is where I want it on here so that I can take the adhesive off So I want it to be centered on my card, just like that. And we're going to take this adhesive off. And we probably have maybe one shot at this because this adhesive for this 4x4 flip flap is quite sticky. So I want to make sure that I am lining it up. I'm lining my card base up with my cut piece of paper. And then hopefully if all goes well, I've got that pretty good and centered. Then I can press all of this down. Now I'm a little bit off on this right-hand side, but I think it's still okay. All right, so now I've got my flip flap down. I've got my base piece down. I've got my birthday wishes. Everything is looking good. I've got everything going in the right direction. And now I can put my last pieces on this card. So I didn't really want any pink on this card, but I did want to use this piece that was left over. So what I decided I was going to do is I was going to add it here. Again, this we could actually pop up, I think. So let's go ahead and do that using some of the leftover pieces from my dimensionals. We're going to go ahead and pop that up. Again, just to give it a little dimension to pop it off of the green base. And grab that. Okay. And so I have actually a lot of real estate here, but I do still want this to be hidden underneath that flip flap. So I think I want to put it right about there. Then I have for someone special, again, I'm going to need to pop up one side of this because I popped up that element. So we'll add some here, and then we're going to add regular adhesive. And we'll add this. Then we're going to take the flower ring. Again, I want to cover up. One of my goals is I want to cover up this pink. So I'm actually going to use a combination of things to cover that up. So we're going to put this here, like so. And then we're going to stick this down, this piece, this laser cut piece down to that circle. And I just put adhesive on the bigger pieces. I don't try to use liquid glue because for me, liquid glue just makes a mess. And we'll just get a few more dots. Again, I think this is plenty to hold it down. And we're going to put it right around that frame. We're going to create a frame essentially around that circle, like so. And then I have my cupcake and I have my my butterfly. So my butterfly is going to go here. And again, I do want to go ahead and pop this up as well, like so. And then we're going to put the cupcake here in the corner, like this. Double check everything's hidden. Yep, everything's hidden. And then I have my bow. Now I tied this off camera because I'm horrible at tying bows. So I'm going to just use a glue dot for this. Put that there. And then we're going to add that to the top of our cupcake. And then I can trim off these edges, or these ends of the twine just a little bit, like so. Okay, so we have a shaker card that is fun addition using the rest of our elements, or a majority of our elements. I think there was the only thing I don't think I used from this were the puffy stickers, because I didn't really want to introduce the pink, and I didn't think this blue flower really worked anywhere. So I didn't do the puffy stickers and I didn't do the glitter glue. But other than that, we were able to work in all of the different pieces into this fun, very special birthday card for somebody. So as part of the finale to the 12 Days of Crafting Advent calendar that we've spent time in, we created a bunch of cards. And I thought we should build a box that we can then use to house the cards in. And there is a guide that I am going to go ahead and post down below so that you can get a link to this in the description below this video for how you can create a box. And this will allow you to create a box in any size that you might need. It's a formula that you can use, and it creates boxes, and it has a top and a bottom. And I think it'll be fun to add these cards to that box so that you can give them away as a gift, maybe even for the holidays. All right, so what is the first step in order to build this box? So up here at the top, and I'll bring this up just a little bit, hopefully you can see that. We need to give the finished box dimensions that we are looking to work with. So what is the length of the box? What's the height, the width of the box, and what's the height of the box? And so I stacked my cards up, and I have my envelopes as well, and I just pulled out my ruler, and I am looking at, I need a height of about 1.5, it looks like. If you can see that on the ruler, hopefully there's not too much glare. So I probably can get away with about a 1.5 in height. So let's just grab a pen, and let me grab a pencil just in case I want to change anything. So my height, I want to be 1.5 inches tall. And these are standard A2 size cards. So this is 5.5 by 4.25. So I want my box, if I take an envelope, my envelope is going to be slightly bigger. So my envelope is 5.75 by, it's not 4.5, but we could call it 4.5. So we need to have the length of the box be bigger than this envelope. So since this envelope is 5.75, we're going to make the length of our box 6 inches. And you probably can't see that. Let me change this to a pen so that you can see that. So let's do the thinner side. No, I think the thicker side is going to be better. Okay, so we want the box length to be 6 inches. And we know that we need it to be at least 1.5 inches tall. And then our width, in this case, is going to be, you really could make it probably 4.75 would work just fine. Okay, so those are the dimensions of my final box. And again, it all depends on the size cards that you make. Again, I made standard A2 size cards. All right, so for the box lid, then we have to make sure that we make it big enough to fit over it. And so this is going to be a calculation. So the length of the box is going to be the finished length from above, which is 6 inches, right? The finished height, which is 1.5 inches, and then the finished height again, which is 1.5 inches. So the total is the combination, or the total is going to be 6 plus 1.5 plus 1.5. So that's 6, 7, 8, 9. So my total length of the piece of paper that I need is 9 inches. Okay. The width of the top is, again, the finished width from above. So 4.75 inches. the finished height, which is 1 1/2 inches, and the finished height again, 1 1/2 inches. Okay, so we have to add those 3 dimensions up. So that's 4, 5, 6, 7 3/4 inches. And those are the dimensions that I need for my top to be in order for it to fit the cards that I have created. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to build the box out of cardstock because it'll be more sturdy, even though the DSP is still fairly thick. Stampin' Up's DSP is fairly thick. I actually want this box to be a little bit more sturdy. And so what I want to do is I'm actually going to use cardstock for both the top and the bottom. And then I think I'm going to use this DSP to decorate it. So we're going to set that aside. We can set our cards and our envelopes aside. And we are going to cut and make the top. So again, I need a total length of 9 inches. And I need a total width of 7 3/4. So we're going to go ahead and bring out, and I'm using 12 by 12 cardstock because that's what I have in stock. That's what I have in my stash. And I am using, I think this is honey butter from Close to My Heart. But again, going back to the colors that were part of the kit, you could do crushed curry. I liked the yellow as a complement to all of this, so that's why I went sort of with the yellowish color. Okay, so we are going to set this at 9, and we're going to cut that piece, and that's our length, and then our width is 7 3/4. So we're going to rotate this and do 7 3/4, and then we have some extra here. So once we've done that, then we have to do some scoring. And the scoring is going to be the height of the box. Okay, so we're going to do all 4 edges at the height of the box, so 1 1/2 inches. And just depending on how you like to work, you can come down to the bottom, and that way you don't accidentally cut, because you can put your I don't know, this may not be in camera. You can put your scoring blade at the bottom of the track here, and then that way you know that that's always at the bottom. So again, I am at 1 1/2 inches, and we're going to score this on all 4 sides at 1 1/2 inches. The nice thing about this template is that, like I said before, you can make a box any size you want using this same formula. And so that is, I think, a really cool thing about this particular resource that we have here. Okay, so we now have that all scored. Hopefully you can see that. And now we have to make some cuts. So we have to cut our pieces here that are going to create the top or the lid of this box. So we are going to cut up to that score line where it meets, like that. So we're just going to cut up on the, I'm doing the inside score line, cutting up to that juncture, like that. And then we're going to turn this around, and we're going to do the same thing on the other side. On the inside score line, we're going to cut up to that where the 2 score lines meet. Okay, so now we've got our flaps scored. And what we need to do now is we need to take all of these, and I would take a bone folder just so that you can get nice crisp edges. And we're going to fold all of these pieces and create some nice crisp edges. Once you make one of these, I think you're really going to see this is really simple to do. And we might cut these at an angle. I might go back in and cut just a slight angle on the tabs, but we're going to see how if this goes together smoothly. So essentially what we're going to do is we are going to put those tabs or those flaps, and we're going to set those down inside of our box. But we need to actually put tape on these. And so where I want to put tape is to make this box sturdy. I want to put tape here on the bottom, here on the top, and here on the sides. So I'm not necessarily going to put them on the edge here, but I want to do all three of these sides. And I'm going to use tear and tape to do that. I think it's just a little bit easier to do tear and tape. And I'm going to leave this up. Hopefully this isn't too distracting. Make sure I've got that right. Yep. So you have to lay your flaps down. And we're going to add our tear and tape to our flaps. And I am doing probably more tear and tape than you probably need to do. But I do want it to be sturdy. I want it to hold up to the lid coming off multiple times. So I am going to put that extra piece, which is again also why I'm doing it in cardstock and not just DSP. And before I actually assemble this box, I'm actually going to need to fold. Remember, fold your flap in because your flap's going to go to the inside. Don't put it on the wrong side of the flap, which I almost did there. Go ahead and do that. We're going to decorate this box before we assemble it because it'll be a little bit easier. And again, you can choose how you want to decorate it. You could decorate the side panels. You could decorate the top. You could actually put a piece of acetate using a die cut. You can die cut out a shape in the center of this and put a piece of acetate on it. So there's lots of things that you could do to like jazz up the box a little bit. But for me, what I was thinking I wanted to do was I wanted to just use a piece of the DSP. And that actually looks like that's a pretty good size. So this is, again, this top part is about 4 3/4 where my first score line is. So if I do 4 1/2, I'm going to just do a smidge under because my cutting was a little bit off, but I'm trying to utilize the paper I have. We're going to cut that. We're going to just do a little bit less here. See if we can get a straight cut on that. That looks much better. And then I need to cut this in this direction because this piece is 5. Remember, this is 5, this is 6, and my piece is 6, but I want to see the yellow edge on the sides. So since this is 4, and so that's a little more than 1/2 inch, we're going to come here and we're going to take that much off to start with. So this is 5 3/4, and we're just going to see if we like that. And I think I do. I think 5 3/4 was a good amount to take off of the length of this DSP. All right, so I'm going to just use the regular adhesive that I use, and we're going to center this as best we can on the top, and then we can make our box. And the only reason I did that is that it's just a little bit easier to do something on a flat surface than it is on a 3D surface. So that's why I did that. Okay, so what we want to make sure that we're going to do is that we make this box straight. So I'm making sure I'm on a flat surface, and I am making sure I get that tab down there. Now you can see I have a little bit of it's a little bit higher right here. I'm not sure if you can see that. We might have to cut that off. So that's where having an angle cut, I probably should have angle cut it so that it's sat flush down at the bottom of this box. But we'll keep going and we'll see. So this is the top. I'm a little less worried about it. It would probably be more of a problem if it was on the bottom. So again, I want to make sure that's touching the bottom of this assembly and that I'm lining it up with the side here, like that. And then we're going to flip it over and we're going to do the same thing on the other side. And this is going to then give us our assembled top. Okay. Is anyone giving cards for the holidays? Your homemade cards? Are you giving those away? Curious if all the cards that people make, what they do with them, and if they actually use all of them. I know I don't make a lot of cards. I think the most cards, but this is sort of the time of year when I make the most of my cards. I might sporadically make cards throughout the year for different things, but for the most part, I do a majority of my card making in November and December. Okay, so I am just burnishing these down just to make sure that they have good contact, adhesive contact. And again, I do have a couple of lips up here that I might end up cutting off, but we'll see how it goes. But that is the top of the box that we are creating. All right, so the next step is that we need to create the bottom of this box. And I'm going to grab another piece of cardstock because the piece of cardstock that I had left over is not going to be big enough. But we have to do all of our measurements. So we're going to come back to our sheet and now we're going to work on the bottom. So again, we are going to take the finished length from above, the finished height, 1 1/2 inches, and the finished height again, 1 1/2 inches. The difference is that we have to take off a 1/16 to get to our total. So 6, 7, 8, 9, so we're 9, and we have to back off 1/16 of that. So 1/16 off would be, if you look at our ruler, let's see, I'm trying to see which one is going to show this the best. So our ruler is in mine. This has quite a few. So if we look at the one here, 1/16 is the second hash mark after the 1. So we're going to back off here to this hash mark here. So that's 1/16, 2/16, 3/16, 4/16, 5/16, 7/16, 8/16. Okay, hopefully that makes sense. So this is going to be 8 and that's actually 7/8. Sorry, I want to make sure I got my math right here. So this first hash is a 6. That's an 8th. That's a 16th. 1, 2, 3, 4. 16. 16th. I think my ruler is marked wrong because that is actually not 1/16. That is 1/8. That the first hash mark is the 16th. The second hash mark is an 8th. So hold on, let me just double check that on another one of my rulers. Pretty sure that's right. I feel like this ruler is marked wrong. I'm just going to check this. This doesn't seem right because this is an 1/8, this is a 16th, and this is an 1/8. And so we only want a 16th. So we're actually going to it's going to be 8 and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. Okay, that doesn't seem right. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That's an 1/8. 1, 2, 3, 4. Whoops. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Yeah, 15 sixteenths. So that's going to be 15 sixteenths. So it's the first hash mark is the 16th. The second hash mark is an 1/8. I'm glad I double checked that because that could have been a disastrous measurement. Okay, so now the width of the box again is the finished width 4 3/4, and the finished height 1, 1 1/2, and then 1, 1 1/2 again. And I have to take off a 16th from the 7 3/4. So if I do 7 3/4, and I have to take a 16th off, that's going to put me just one hash mark to the left of the 3/4. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 sixteenths. So that's going to be 6 and 11 sixteenths. Okay, so just to make it easy, it's the smaller line, and you're going to go down 1 from your measurement. So you're going to go down 1 line from the 9. You're going to go down 1 line down from the 7, from the 6 3/4. You're going to go down 1 line. So hopefully that makes sense. All right. So let's do our cutting. So the first measurement is 8 and 15 sixteenths. So again, we're going to go down one hash mark, 1 line to the right of the 9. So we're just taking off a 1/16 of an inch from that piece of paper. And then our second one is 6 and 11 sixteenths. But remember, we are 6 3/4. So we're going to just come down 1 line to the right of the 6 3/4 to get that piece. Oh, I think I cut that wrong. I did. I cut that wrong. I have that wrong. So this is just a 16th off. This is supposed to be 7. Sorry. This is 7 and 11 6, right? Is that right? That's 7 and 3/4. So this is 7. Okay, so this number was wrong. I apologize. This number is 7 and sorry, we're going to pull out the ruler again. It's 7 and 3/4, but we're going to go down 1 hash mark. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 7 sixteenths. 7 and 7 sixteenths. I knew that size did not look right when I cut it. Sometimes things aren't right when you cut them, and they just don't feel like they're the right size. And that was that piece of paper. So don't worry, I can use that for something else. It's not a big deal. It's only paper. Okay, so we need to recut this again. So again, we're going to come here. We're going to do the first cut, which is 9, and you're going to back off 1 tick mark, one mark on the ruler to the right, giving you the 8 and 5/16 measurement. And then the next one is going to be 7 and 7/16. So it's going to be 7 3/4. And then you're going to back that off 1 tick mark, and that will give you the right size piece of paper. So apologize for the little confusion in the math there, but I think we've got the right numbers there. Okay, so again, we need to score this at the 1.5. So whatever your height is that you've determined your box is supposed to be at, you need to score all 4 sides at that height. Okay? So 1.5 is my height. So we're going to score at 1.5, all 4 sides. All right. So again, all scored. And now we have to do our cutting again. And so this time I'm actually going to cut this, and I'm going to cut it at a slight angle. So I'm going to go to the right side of that inside score line, just a smidge, not too much, just a smidge. And I'm going to sort of cut up at an angle to where the 2 score lines meet. And then I'm going to come up the score line and cut out that wedge. This just makes sure that the box does the paper doesn't interfere with itself, and we can get hopefully a little bit of a cleaner bottom than I got at the top. So just a small little sliver out. So again, you can cut up, and then I'm going to go to the left just a little bit, and we're going to cut a wedge out of that. Small little piece. Doesn't need to be that much. Small little piece. And I'll flip it around, and we're going to do the same thing on the other 2 sides. And if you wanted to get fancy again, you could decorate the bottom of the box as well. If you wanted to make it extra special for somebody, you could definitely decorate the inside of it with DSP, or you could decorate the sides of it if you wanted to. Again, only paper, so use it up. It's not meant to be hoarded. It's meant to be used. It's pretty, and you should use it so that other people can see how pretty it is. Okay, so now we're going to do our scoring again on all 4 sides. Getting those nice and crisp, and scoring our tabs as well. And then we need to add our tear tape. Again, same idea. We want to add it to 3 of the sides. Again, you could do all 4 sides if you wanted to. And we are almost done with this box. One of the things that you could do as well with this is do multiple colors. So you could do the bottom of the box a different color of cardstock, and do the top in a complementary color. Again, maybe matching the types of cards that you have in it. I do think I mentioned that you can use standard DSP for this. It's going to be it's not that it's not going to be sturdy, it's just not going to be as sturdy because the weight of the paper is less. So that's why you might want to reinforce it or decorate it in a different way. Okay, This is the boring part. Okay. So let's go ahead and assemble this. Oops, that didn't stick down. You know, watching things get glued down is not the most interesting part of a YouTube video. Okay, there we go. Getting the edges started. My dog is whining. My husband came home and then left again. We'll go ahead and do this. Okay, same idea as I want to get that piece down as far as I can to the bottom, and I want to line up the edges here a little far in. I think I want to try and fix that. I'm a little far in. As long as you don't push too hard on the tear and tape, you do have a little bit of workable time to get it in the right spot. So and you want it to be as neat as possible if you're going to give it away as a gift. So that looks a little better. Did bend the paper just a little bit there, but that's okay. All right, so then we've got this side. Yeah, and then we'll do the last two. And then we have to test it to make sure it all worked out and all of our measurements worked out. There we go. 2 more sides to do. That one ended up being a little bit high. I don't know how I did that. For some reason, did I score it more than 1.5 inches? That looks quite a bit higher than the other side. Okay. I may have to go back and look how I cut that. I might have cut that wrong, because this definitely looks high on this side. Thought I was doing so well measurement wise, but that definitely is high. All right, so we are going to do some trimming. We'll have to go back and look at my measurements again and make sure that I did all my math correct. I thought I did, but obviously I did not measure, or I didn't do something correct. But the good thing is it was incorrect on the large side versus on the small side, which is a little bit harder to correct. Okay, so now for the cards. And look how beautiful that is. So I do have to add the envelopes here, and the cards fit in. Oh, do the envelopes fit? No, the envelopes should fit. A little bit tight, no, a little bit tight. So I might adjust this length a little bit, because the 6 inches that I did, I think I need 6.25. I think the length needs to be a little bit wider or a little bit longer, because the cards these are buckling. Even though I measured and I thought I did a good job at measuring, that it looks like we needed it to be just a little bit bigger at 6, maybe 6.25, in order for the envelopes to not buckle in here. But I think you get the idea. We'll see if the lid fits on perfectly. So the lid slides right on, and then you can use ribbon, and you can run a ribbon around this and tie it for someone. Another thing you could do is you could do like a little half circle on the 2 sides here, using a circle punch, so it makes it easy for them to grab and lift. But again, this fits beautifully on this box that we just created. So my adjustment would be that I think the length needs to be slightly longer to accommodate those envelopes better. and not have them fold up. But hopefully this last little project will help you with your gift giving for the season, but also a great easy way for you to pull this out and make a box for any cards that you might give away. And again, you can embellish the top of this even more. You can take some of the ephemera pieces. You can really make this pretty as a gift that you might want to give someone. All right. Well, I want to first say thank you to all the people who subscribed to my channel over the course of these last 12 days and are going to join me hopefully and enjoy the projects that I've made. I really appreciate it. And I wanted to finalize this one video with a walkthrough of what we created. So I'll start with the layout so that we can get that out of the way. But again, we created this layout using the dies and the stamp set and doing stenciling on the banner pieces and here on the flowers, as well as we use the glitter glue and the glitter gems to round out this project. So again, a fun, easy layout with just some simple banners, some memory and more cards from my stash. This is from the Christmas Traditions of Christmas or Christmas. I can't remember the name of the stamp set, but this is one of the stamp sets that's now on Last Chance. And then obviously the flowers. So again, really, really fun. I really am very pleased with that layout. We created this box that can house all of our cards. And again, down below in this video in the description, I'll have a link to the way to create this box, how you get the dimensions to create this box. And then we use some of the ephemera. I use some of the ephemera pieces in the paper to decorate the top of the box. And then we have our cards. So the shaker card that we just created. And then all of our other cards. So again, this card is using the embossed 3 1/4 by 3 by 4 card, and then the paper and the twine. Another shaker card. Again, the shaker card, we used the cutout from this to add to this shaker. So that's again. The other thing with this card, I did not like the way it turned out. So I actually tore it apart and I cut off the green that you see back here off of the sides because that was coming off to the edges and I really didn't like it. So I just tore it apart and I took that green off. So if you notice that it's a little different than what we had in the video, that was the difference on that one. Again, using the dies and the puffy stickers. The dies, the puffy stickers, and then I also use the perennial postage stamp. Oops, I got stuff stuck together here. Separate those guys off. So again, these two we created together. We used the cutouts from these guys to create the rainbows on these. Then we used the second set of dies that we got to create this card and the puffy stickers and twine. We use that technique of sticking the gems on top of the tear and tape, and then some of the ephemera and cards and stamps. And then these were the first cards that we created on days 1 and 2, I believe. Again, using the pieces from the stamp set and from the dies, as well as the tags. All right, so those were all of the projects that we created. I had a great time doing it, and I really look forward to my next video. What I think is going to be Christmas tags. And then we're going to move into some scrapbooking. But I'm done with cards for the moment, I think. No more holiday cards. I shipped all mine out. And so we are going to move on to just getting tags ready for for Christmas, and then back into layouts we go. Anyway, again, thank you for joining me. Thank you to the new members or the new subscribers, and let me know if you have any questions about any of the projects down below. I would be happy to give you more information. All right, everyone, have a great day.